was overall pretty close, right?
Yeah, it was, and it all came down to the draft, and especially how it was executed. Like I felt like Nemesis Hydra was doing a very good job, but they scaled off way too quickly going up against Excrucio, who, even when they were having tough fights, they were making the smarter ones. They knew exactly when to engage, and they were always doing it as a group of three.
Yeah, soft lock was cool, but he was going for Glaive. And on the other hand side, we do see the Fortress, maybe followed by Sky, who knows? Lost by Toffia with the pick now. Very excited to see what Hydra is trying to do now, and that will be interesting.
Yeah, you do have the Glaive coming out, and Glaive is very strong within the meta at the moment.
Yeah.
But the good counter to Glaive actually is grabbing that Fortress on the side of Nemesis Hydra, who I think, they can make this work out really well for them. But it all comes down to like how they make their engagements, because the thing is, if Sky isn't able to get enough poke damage off, she won't be able to get those broken misstacks that she needs before she dives very deep, and this might hurt a lot because you do have the Vanguard coming out, especially after this Glaive uses Afterbird to dive very deep.
Alright, so here we see the full comp of Excrucio. They are going for Black Feather, Arden, and Glaive. So no Arden for Lost by Toff. He is playing on Fortress this time. And to round up the roster here, the hero picks from Nemesis Hydra. That is an interesting choice, and they are going for the Rhyme. It is the second time we see it. First played by Gabe Wiesel, which was a solid play, but didn't turn out in the end for the team. Very excited. What do you think about that, Rome?
I do have to favor the composition for Nemesis Hydra coming to this one. I feel like if they position themselves correctly with Fortress manning out that front along with Rhyme, and as long as they're able to do this properly, Sky will be unloading so much damage with 4 Barrage series strikes, throwing down the ultimate in the end. However, Excrucio has been playing very well as a group of 3. They've been synergizing really well, and I think that they can make opportunities come out of this.
Alright, last question before we throw over. Weapon Power Sky or Crystal Power Sky?
It's Crystal Power Sky. I do feel it's a lot better.
Alright, double CP, Tasty Jester, take it away, let's go.
All right, potentially our final game of the day, as Excrucio is going to look to finish off Nemesis, their former guildmates, in game number 2 here. But Nemesis, they do not want to go down without a fight. So the compositions are looking strong. Another Black Feather. I'm really surprised we haven't seen Black Feather drawing some bans, because it has been so dominant today.
Well, it's been all about Glaives and Fortresses, some Ardens, some Adagios. I mean, like, not really some unexpected bans, but you're right. I mean, he has kind of made it through every time. Now, Hardek is going to be here on this Rhyme, and that is definitely a little bit more of a contentious kind of pick, because there were some pretty extensive changes to him this patch, Mr. Bacon. So I'm very curious, how will Hardek deal with this? And it feels like it's a double weapon versus double crystal setup, doesn't it?
It really does. And looking at the items that are being built early, it looks like that may also be the case. Obviously, with old school on this Black Feather, you never know if it's going to be weapon or crystal just based off the Book of Eulogies, because either way, you build a Book of Eulogies for your first item regardless if you're a melee laner. So we could be seeing that turn into a crystal Black Feather, but I really just don't think so. Weapon Black Feather has so much more impact on the game. And for Glaive, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I've seen crystal Glaives, and I have yet to be impressed by one. So
I've seen Weapon Adagios, doesn't mean I'll play it anytime soon.
Exactly. But there is going to be the early aggression once again from Nemesis. And I mean, it really just feels like deja vu a bit, just with the map flipped, because Nemesis, they're such an aggressive early game team, while Excrucio, they want to play defensively. They want to just let the enemy team come to them and survive until they are able to get themselves a couple of tier 3 items.
Well, I think I Love Joseph is pretty much mimiking that exact thought. His first gone back picks up the light shields. So he has a good bit of the crystal mitigation, picks up that weapon blade there as well, so he can continue on farming at a pretty decent rate. But you're right. I mean, this early game kind of mentality from Nemesis Hydra, I think, might just play out exactly the same unless there's going to be some kind of twist on it this round. So if Excrucio can survive and tank up to that mid game to in and about where the Kraken becomes those objectives, we could have a problem here for Nemesis Hydra.
Exactly. So Nemesis, they need to win early and hard, essentially, if you want to beat this Excrucio team. You know, if they can prevent Excrucio from really being able to get anything going,
Cool.
then they can potentially get that snowball so large that it just is impossible to deal with. But it's the pace has already, just within the first 3 minutes, has slowed down quite a bit, and that is not a good sign if you're a Nemesis fan.
Yeah, but Nemesis Hydra, I mean, both of their carries do have energy batteries. So, I mean, they can consistently and continually just keep farming. They don't have to go back. They can check out the item shop every now and then. But between, you know, the health returns from Iron Guard and now these energy returns from the mana batteries, like, they can consistently keep pushing up against, or they can consistently just stay in that jungle for longer periods of time. So, yeah, it's really curious. Which way will they go? Because Von C is known as an aggression, but that is some aggression from I Love Joseph.
Yeah, Excrucio actually being the ones to take the initiative here and get the first blood onto Hardek, as he was just caught a little bit too far out in the lane, and the three-man collapse able to secure that one. The kill did go over to Ezidox, not 100% ideal, but you know, early on in the game with kills worth so little at this point, it really doesn't matter who's the one that actually securing it, at least not for the first 8 minutes or so.
Well, Hardek, I mean, yeah, sure, he might be the first death, but he's just going to come back to lane. If you think about it, Hardek is actually the guy in lane with a laning rhyme. How often do you get to see that? But I do see a dead Sky, got a little bit too aggressive into that jungle. And Excrucio, yeah, they might have been able to strike out, get that first blood, but now with that defensive rotation, all three, they're able to pick up Sky as on top of it. Not looking good for Nemesis.
Yeah, and with that, going back to that lane rhyme, it's not something you see frequently whatsoever, but when you know that your opponent in the lane is going to also be a melee hero, it was going to be Blackfeather or Glaive, one of the two.
Yeah, it's triple melee.
So they knew that it was going to be a melee hero, which Rhyme is perfectly fine against melee heroes. He actually excels against melee heroes to a degree. So that's why it's not really all that surprising to me to see the Rhyme in the lane in this position. But oh my goodness, Von C getting afterburned into the item shop.
I didn't actually know you could go that far into the item shop.
Oh yeah, you can go all the way up to that wall, like the back wall. You can go really deep on the map. There's a couple spots that you can go surprisingly far into on the map, especially in the bases. There's you can go pretty far back, but this is again Excrucio. We spent so much time talking about how they're the passive team, they're the team that wants to wait and capitalize on a mistake, but right now they're the ones actually being just a little bit aggressive and picking up the kills for it.
And, well, hey, I mean, if you can get that lead early, you might as well. At this point, they've defeated pretty much everything from Nemesis Hydra. Their lane presence has been diminished just a little bit. Von C has been caught out, and again, using I Love Joseph, that should actually be a kill on top of Hardek.
Yeah, it is going to be a kill secured for Old School, and this is the exact opposite of what we saw in Game 1, where Old School was just getting shut down over and over again. Now he's got a kill and 3 assists to his name, 67 farm to the 53 of Hardek. It is Hardek the one that has been getting focused quite a bit. He does have the same score as Von C, but it feels like there's been so much pressure on this lane.
All right, so 4-0, Excrucio definitely looking a lot better here early on, but we'll have to see what kind of momentum they can carry forward here into the mid game. We should have that Eve of Harvest up first here for Hardek, and Von C is looking like he's well on his way to that broken myth, but Toph, he's going for that fountain, and I'd have to assume at this point they're also going to be looking for that Warhorn. None of this Crucible second item kind of nonsense.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Especially Fortress really needs the Warhorn to be at maximum effectiveness. So it's really just no question that a Warhorn will be built. Typically second item for a Fortress, if not second, at the very least third. I don't think I've ever seen a competitive Fortress
Ooh.
get a Warhorn later than third item. A lot of good damage out to Hardic again, and keep in mind, this is Rhyme. Rhyme is supposed to be one of those heroes that, you know, is almost as hard to kill as Finn with all that fortified health, but he's getting chunked out pretty hard. A death from above just barely dodged by I Love Joseph, but the fight is still on. They go in on it to Von C and pick up that kill. I Love Joseph and Old School are just doing work as Ezidox is just staying alive on the backside, and that is going to be another kill secured for Excrucio. 6-0, and now working on this turret that they should be able to get even without the ace buff. The first turret does go down at 8 minutes. Excrucio is just looking so strong right now.
Yeah, they're definitely applying the pain very nicely. They are, again, just depending on Von C for over-aggressing. And 0 and 3 for him and Hardic. Not to say that Hardic is really over-aggressing, but they're just able to zerg him down. And while Rhyme might excel against triple melee, well, I can tell you that Sky so far is definitely not. And it feels like in a lot of these team fights, I mean, Von C is the one to go down first because he's either A, too far forward, or doesn't have any escape mechanisms. Like, there's no Vanguard here. The boots will only get you so far, and he doesn't have a Frostburn, right? So the forward barrages are not going to be slowing down those opponents. He's going for the damage.
Not only that, but doesn't have any way to, you know, give himself additional defensive stats. Like, Hardic and Lost Boy Tough can both get themselves fortified health with abilities. Obviously, Lost Boy Tough has to use the ultimate for it, but it's still there.
It works. Yeah.
And Von C he's working on some defense items now, but is still very easy to kill at the moment. With the rest of Excrucio in here. Oh, another Afterburn dodges the death from above and punts Von C back into the team. The crits, the AoE cleaves from them are doing so much work. Hardic, the last one alive as can be expected on a Rhyme, but is going to go down as can be expected when you're down 8-0.
Early on, it's really hard to get enough armor to kind of make a difference between this early double weapon power, but now all three of them zerging down again. Like Von C, no reflex block. I would have actually, after the spear, maybe even gone for reflex block earlier than what he's currently trying to attempt, and even then, like, it's just, I mean, it's painful to watch. I mean, we went from a very dominant kind of early game to now these guys are actually losing this early game as well.
Yeah, the ultimate is used by Fortress, but those pack mates are just going to get taken down pretty painlessly. So not really much being accomplished with that attack of the pack. That's 100 seconds plus that it's going to be unavailable, and that's a huge ability. I mean, not only do the Wolves do a nice amount of damage with that bleed they provide, but the fortified health that Fortress gets upon using it is, you know, we've seen plenty of times that be the deciding factor in a fight. So
yeah, health, damage, vision, another target to hit, something to get in the way of the skill shots. Like, there's so many good uses out of those puppies. A 9-0 Excrucio. I mean, right now, if you want to just look at gold, I mean, 3-6, yeah, call it 6,000 gold. The big thing is all you have to really do is look at Lost Boy Top versus Ezidox, and Ezidox has what, an extra 1,000 gold just by himself from the Iron Guard. Like, that's not even factoring in anything else. Like, that's a pretty significant difference just at a glance between the state of the supports. And the supports are typically those a little bit lower in the gold count for your team. So if Ezidox is doing this well, we're having some definite issues here with Nemesis Hydra.
Yeah, and looking at the one thing I always love to see is team kill participation, but actually there's going to be another Afterburn putting them into the wall, a gauntlet to keep them away from getting under the safety of their turrets. But Hardic actually got some solid damage in there along with Von C and Excrucio. None of them went down, but I Love Joseph got dropped pretty low, but they're still able to back away from this fight relatively unscathed.
I'm actually rather impressed with that one. And so, again, like you said it, Hardic excels at melee, especially triple melee. There might be a point that he can kind of bring a little bit more of an impact to a lot of this. I thought he was going to go for the Eve of Harvest just so he can try to stay in here, but he's actually opted to the damage. This is double broken myth. Now, he has that regen, but he's also building into the armor, and that's really, I think, the more important stat that you need right now. You need that armor. Last Boy Tough, armor. Von C finally reflex block, has had the light armor for a while, and now Hardic with that broken myth, he has that coat of plates, he's looking for that Atlas. Like, there is a chance, 15 minutes-ish coming in. If they can steal out a Kraken and get, at least a kill, they might be able to start turning this one back, but they gotta survive until then.
Yeah, and getting that armor is going to be so important for them. If Von C can get a bit more armor in his inventory, Lost Boy Tough already, of course, as you mentioned, has that Atlas Pauldron. Hardek, I assume, is going to be building towards one as well. So if they can get all of that armor, it could be a similar situation to Game 1, but again, reversed in that they get enough defenses that the damage just isn't enough from their opponents. But right now, Excrucio, they are completely in control. It's a 7,000 gold lead, a 9-kill lead, and we are just 2 minutes away from Kraken making her appearance on the fold. So
it's perfect game so far.
Yeah, it is. It's Excrucio, again, looking very strong here in game number 2. I think they just saw a couple of opportunities, went for it all out, and every single one of them paid off in spades. And now we're going to be potentially having another fight. A gauntlet is going to go down, splitting Sky from the rest of the team. Hardek is getting dropped so low. He's still hanging on with that fortified health and the healing, and it's actually going to be a 1-for-1 thus far, but Hardek does finally fall, and it is Lost Boy Toff, the only one to escape. How Lost Boy Toff is absolutely
so good
amazing at getting out of fights. I mean, it seems like every single fight, any fight that Nemesis loses, regardless of if they're ahead or if they're behind, it feels like Lost Boy Toff is the last one alive every time.
Yeah, he knows when to piece, and piece he did do. Now, at the same time, immediately after the death, Von C and Hardek, they actually pick up both of their Eve of Harvest. So, again, no Frostburn for any kind of control. There's really no point. Not with a triple melee kind of just jumping your face. There's really nothing that Von C can kite here. So, now they're going to go for the sustain. And the sustain is going to be, it's up in the air for me. I don't think it's enough, especially with the fact that Ezidox has a Crucible for the team, plus the Warhorn, so the engage is there, and they can just get that positioning in. We only have that reflex lock on Von C, so the gauntlets have been, rather useful in that regard, because they can actually keep Von C out or in, and the rest of the team, out or in. They can split using the knowledge that they have only one reflex. And then on top of that, Aegis. We got Aegis on Old School and Aegis on I Love Joseph. Like, I don't think the Eve of Harvest is going to be enough to turn these around.
It might be. We saw in that last fight how long Hardek was able to stay alive.
But that's after Von C's dead.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still, if we've seen Rhymes 1v3 before. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. If
not
he's
when
able
they're
to stay
down
alive
10
long
kills
enough,
and 6,000 gold.
Okay, yes, but
Gauntlet.
we're about to find out, because there's a gauntlet going down, and Hardek gets a nice Valkyrie down, but it doesn't quite do enough damage. Look at Hardek, he is still at nearly full health though, but that is going to be both of his teammates down, and can he get the 1v3? I think the damage is too much. The
What I'm talking about, Bacon?
The Eve of Harvest was depleted by that point, so not going to be getting any more lifesteal, and it looked strong at first. Hardek was in the middle of the fight and was still sitting at full health because of all that lifesteal. But once the Eve is empty, there's not really a whole lot that can be done. So the Ace, the turret, and that should also be the Kraken going over to Excrucio. The perfect game has been lost. It was lost, a couple of fights ago. But
yeah, thanks, Joseph.
It's still a very, very dominant game number 2 from Excrucio.
Now, Excrucio losing up their sponsor, coming into this grudge match up against, their ex-sister team. Can you get a divorce from your sister team? I'm not entirely sure, but I gotta say, I mean, if there's sponsors looking at this, you gotta be kind of considering Excrucio with I Love Joseph, Old School, 2 big names regardless, and now Ezidox coming into this one. Like, these are names that are going to be forever carried forward if they do seal the deal here for a 2-0, because the semifinals tomorrow is going to be, again, another opportunity for these guys to show off. And I was personally super excited about Von C. There's been a lot of chanting in Twitch chat about it. Von C, the no fear, just fight, gets in there. I've seen him stream. He's an amazing guy. But joining this team, unfortunately, is just not going to quite make it to those semis.
Well, I mean, the thing is, they're still going to be at the Winter Championships, as there's going to be the attack of the pack used. Old School is just diving right on in, trying to get that turret. A death from above is just going to force them back and doesn't really catch you on. Neither does the Valkyrie. That's 2 ultimates, not really doing a whole lot. A lot of damage is onto Old School, though. He's still underneath the turret, but they're kiting them back and forth through this gauntlet, getting those stuns. Von C finally does go down. look at the damage coming out there on to Hardek. That's another kill, and Lost Boy Toph is just going to go back onto the base, lick his wounds, try and make something happen, but it is too little, too late. And the crystal is going to be destroyed, and Excrucio will take the series in a 2-0 fashion, as that's been all four of our quarterfinal matchups were 2-0s. So a lot of these teams, half the teams showing up in force, while the other half just unfortunately not quite able to get the job done.
So a few things to question, and as you said, like Nemesis Hydra, they are going to be at the championship. So was this them experimenting? Were they looking for some different comps? Were they trying something different in their comps? Von C, I mean, he was just super, super aggressive in early game in both sets. Game number 1 with the Taka worked out sort of, went into a breaking point, which may or may not have been his downfall. But here in the game number 2 with this Sky, it just got shut down super hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, they are still participating in the live championships. They are qualified, so it's all about the seeding at this point. But of course, a higher seed means better matchups going into that event. So
yeah, but if you have no fear, why would you care about the seeds?
Either way, I'm still really excited to see them at the championships. Von C was a really great pickup for Nemesis. I feel like he fits perfectly well into their style. I feel like they definitely got away from their style a bit in game number 2, and I think that did cost them quite a bit. But all credit does still go over to Excrucio. In game 1, they went toe-to-toe against Nemesis, highly aggressive early game, were able to survive it, and then in game number 2, it looked like they took a page out of Nemesis' book and were going really aggressive themselves, but it was calculated aggression. They weren't diving turrets recklessly. They were just looking for fights where they knew they could take them, and they end up with the 2-0.
Well, that is going to be it for our quarters. Tomorrow's we are going to have our semis, I believe third place, and finals, all going to be wrapped up in a nice, pretty pink ribbon. But Excrucio now into the semis, Noble Esports, TSM, and I want to say, I don't remember the third one.
Velocity.
So, Velocity, thank you so much. How did I forget the Enzio, the youngling right there? But Bacon, it has been definitely a pleasure, and Forecourt Bacon reigns supreme.
Absolutely. The band got back together for at least one night, hopefully.